These are 50 tips for your next solo travel trip. I'm Chris, this is Yellow Productions. A special thanks to Exter, the maker of fine travel wallets and vacuum travel bags that we'll talk about later for sponsoring this video. But first, let's go on to number one, the first tip that I have for you out of 50. It's starting with a set of tips that are related to your mindset. And so going on a solo trip, if it's your first time or your next time or didn't go particularly well, starts with building some pre-trip solo confidence. Many people, they've always gone with other people, and the first time can be a little bit frightening. And so maybe you don't want your first solo trip to be 6 weeks backpacking in Bangkok. Start with something small. Start with a day trip someplace. Start with a weekend trip as a driving place from, wherever you live. It can include taking yourself to a museum or a solo trip to a restaurant. That's sometimes where people have that mindset to be like, oh my gosh, I can't eat by myself in a restaurant. Let me tell you, you absolutely can. I travel solo quite a bit. My wife has traveled solo quite a bit. Our 5-year-old daughter, okay, she hasn't traveled solo yet, but she will one day. And we've even traveled solo when we've gone on trips together places. We'll take solo days. And so, yes, it's certainly great to travel together, but I think sometimes traveling apart or by yourself can have its special benefits. Okay, so just because nobody wants to go with you someplace doesn't mean you don't have to go and you have to stay home. Okay, the second tip that I have for you is to define your profile. And what do I mean by your profile? Well, you want to decide whether you are an introvert solo traveler or whether you're an extrovert solo traveler, because those will kind of define how you will go on your trip. Someone who's an introvert solo traveler might enjoy museums, arts, coffee shops by themselves. Someone who's an extrovert solo traveler is likely going to want to seek out destinations that have a vibrant party scene, social life. Though the extrovert social traveler will probably have a greater problem in places where there's a language barrier, because they'll want to talk to others and they might not be able to because they might not be able to speak. So think about which one you are. If you're okay being by yourself and not being able to talk to people, probably doesn't matter whether you go someplace that you don't know the language. Okay, my third tip for solo travel is to know your actual physical limits. And so I think travelers anywhere in general, but those that are particularly new to solo travel, need to be realistic about their physical abilities so that they don't overexert themselves. If you've always been letting somebody else plan the trips, or you've been going on cruises, or you've been going on group trips where somebody else figures it all out, they figured out what's doable and what's not, and they plan something that's reasonable. But if you're planning it out yourself, you might just, or you don't have other people with you who are like, I'm tired, I want to go back to the hotel. You might really just, push the pedal to the limit. But I think that it's important to assess how realistic your itinerary can be so that you don't end up with days that are awkward, unenjoyable, or even dangerous. Okay, like for example, driving 16 hours by yourself, probably not a good idea. If you have a long drive, it's helpful to trade off with people, but if you're by yourself, you probably can't drive as long because you don't have somebody else to do that with you. The fourth tip is to get comfortable with decision fatigue. There's another one. If you've always gone with other people, there's probably somebody else who's either making the decisions or helping to make the decisions, or you're even able to bounce things off. What do you think about? But when you're by yourself, guess who all those decisions lie with? They lie with you, whether they're good or whether they're bad. And so it's pretty important, I think, to be able to make a decision, like where are you gonna eat, where are you gonna go? And I know so many people who say, I was at this city and I was trying to find something to eat, and I spent 30 minutes on Yelp only to decide to eat to the restaurant that was right next to me. And so sometimes it's just better to go ahead and make that decision rather than spending all of your time there trying to make the decision. Just make one that seems reasonable. But if you're worried about that decision fatigue, then you could totally book a group tour to help make all those decisions for you. And you can still travel solo on a group tour because you'll be the only person that you know there and you won't know anybody else. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next chapter, which is about planning your destination. So these are the next 5 or so tips. And so my tip number 5 is to pick a beginner-friendly destination. As your first solo trip, now is not the ideal time to go completely off the grid. choose a location that has some well-established tourism infrastructure, including accessible public transport, a high volume of other travelers, good tourist information, places that are safe, places that you don't get scammed all that much. And so if you're, I would say, English speaking, then, a great place to start is other English speaking countries. Just a great place to start the approach. If you're looking for Asia, consider Singapore, because English is the primary language there in Singapore. You might want to, what I would say, there might be some more adventuresome places that you might be looking to go to, but you might want to start in the beginner-friendly destination. Think London, Paris, Munich. Chris, what about Frankfurt? I like Munich better. Prague. Those are great beginner destinations in Europe. But go into Japan. I love Singapore. Even Tokyo. Japan, the English just fine in Tokyo. If you don't speak Japanese, it is absolutely all good. Okay. Tip number 6 is to research the no-go zones in your destination. Every major city has unsafe neighborhoods. Doesn't matter how safe it is. Even Tokyo, you might have some that you don't want to go late at night. And so pre-trip research should include identifying those areas. For example, Skid Row in Los Angeles, the Tenderloin in San Francisco. And I would say that this is definitely best sourced from, I would say trusted information, maybe YouTubers who show you those things or who've recently been there, because also the situations in a lot of cities can change rapidly. So what was good might not be good anymore. Okay. The 7th tip for solo travel is to research local customs and laws so that you're not wondering whether you're doing something wrong or you're like, oh my gosh, I did that. Because it's not just polite, it's actually a critical safety measure. This includes researching appropriate dress codes. If you're going to a primary Muslim country, then you might have to cover up more than perhaps you expect to, covering your shoulders and knees for temple visits, for example, to either A, go in, or B, avoid standing out when you're out in public. And then it's also important to look at some of the local laws for public behavior, things like alcohol consumption, what is the appropriate age, can I do it on the street, can I not do it on the street, or perhaps even public displays of affection, which might be illegal in your destination country, or even taking photos of other people could be illegal when you go. The 8th tip for solo travel is to check your hotel locations, to know your hotel locations, but also to look at them with Google Street View. So Google Street View, that's the mode where you actually put Google Maps in the thing to look at the building. And so this will allow you to tell, how does the neighborhood around it look? And you can look and see, is the property on a deserted street or is the property in a busy, lively area? Does it look well maintained or does it look run down? Because those are things that are often really impossible to tell from the hotel photos, but that you totally can tell when you bring up actual pictures of the building. I also like for hotels, if I go to TripAdvisor, not to filter by the photos that the hotel has put up there, but I'll always filter the photos by traveler uploaded photos so I can also see what people are posting, not what the hotel wants to show you. The 9th solo travel trip is to learn 5 to 10 key local phrases. Your goal is not to become fluent in the language at the destination, but to have a basic grasp of key phrases. Things like hello, thank you, excuse me, and where is the bathroom? In Spanish, that would be ¿Dónde está el baño? There we go. And my español is muy bueno. That's what I tell myself, at least. But most importantly, some other words that are important to learn are how to say no and no thank you in a firm and forceful manner. This is a critical safety tool that we will talk about later on when we get to some of the safety tips. Solo travel tip number 10 is to not pick your destination as the honeymoon island. Okay, what's the honeymoon island? That's Maui in Hawaii. But there's a lot of destinations that are honeymoonish type destinations. And so if you're going by yourself, whether you're in a relationship, whether you want to be in a relationship, whether you don't, it might just be one where all of the activities and a lot of honeymoon type destinations are focused on couples. And so being a solo person in one of those destinations can absolutely potentially be a little bit lonesome. So instead, choose a location with a lot of international visitors and a high energy atmosphere that could definitely be a more suitable environment for your solo travel. Okay, in the next section, 11, I want to go into some tips for booking accommodation and transport. But before that, let's go into some of the tips and questions from the chat. All right, Brooklyn Joe says, there's always a bridesmaid there, always a bridesmaid somewhere. Kathy loves the YouTube light in the back right there. Thank you so much, Kathy. Yeah, that was for doing a certain number of either live streams or shorts in a month or members only videos. I don't remember. They were having a few promotions recently, but that came in this YouTube box to my house, and the YouTube was so nice to send me that. So thank you, YouTube, for sending the little YouTube light. Okay. Dirty Jim and the Boy says, if you have to watch a video about how to take a trip, you should probably just stay home. All right, thank you for that tip. And I guess, there's a lot of people who maybe haven't taken a lot of trips before, so this information can be useful. Melissa says, my next trip is to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in December, going with my husband, but still fun. Can't wait, never been. Twinson says, you don't want to be staying on some sketchy, lonely road. I agree. And John says, research is good info, like not to tip in Tokyo. Absolutely. Kathy says her husband has no decision fatigue because she books everything and her husband goes along. Sounds like a perfect match. Sherry says, I'm always the camp director when we travel. Time for myself. Mermaid suggests Orlando is fun by yourself. Orlando is absolutely a fun destination by yourself. The land of Disney World and putt-putt golfing. Theme parks, you can never be bored in a theme park, right? Larry says I use Chris's Banff videos on my recent trip. It was great. Awesome, Larry. And traveling with Veilman says, off to my solo Bangkok trip December 1st. I hope you enjoy it. Melissa says I don't drive, so it's a little tricky for me, but luckily now we have taxis, Ubers, and Lyfts. Uber has really changed traveling solo or anywhere. You just get lost and you're like, call an Uber and get me somewhere else. So I love it too. Okay, so tip number 11 for traveling solo is to choose an appropriate accommodation style for solo travel. So I like hotels. I'm a hotel person. We'll talk about that in a moment. But everybody knows what a hotel is. What are some other places that you might want to consider? One, you might want to consider hostels. I don't stay in hostels. They're not really my thing. But because I'm an introvert traveler. But for extrovert travelers that want to meet a lot of people, or for budget-conscious travelers, hostels are a great place to stay because they offer a built-in social scene, tours, bars, and just a bunch of cool friends that you can hang out with. You could also consider bed and breakfasts and small inns. When we were in Ireland, we stayed at this bed and breakfast on like a farm. And, like the people who cook you breakfast are the people who own the farm. And so it's a way where if you were by yourself, you could check in with the farm family every morning. They would ask you, where are you going? Or what are you doing? Or this and that. So you can have this is a better middle ground between the hostel where you have zero privacy, a small bed and breakfast. You have more privacy because you have a private room, but you maybe have a common area where you have breakfast with the other guests in the morning. I think an Airbnb probably wouldn't be the best one for a solo trip because having a whole apartment to yourself could potentially be a little bit lonely. And then hotels, I like hotels. And so I like to pick hotels that are just in the center of everything, in the thick of it. But if I'm traveling by myself, my room doesn't have to be big. And so I will prioritize location, knowing that I'll be spending most of my time outside of my hotel room, and with a lot of places that I can go eat and shop right in front of things, so I'm not cooped up in my hotel lonely all by myself. Okay, so also solo travel trip number 12 is don't just pick the cheapest hostel or hotel. I mean, I see so many travelers make this mistake, and the search engines drive you to it, whether you use whatever you use, and you just sort by price, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's this hotel in Las Vegas called the Circus, and the rooms are $9 a night. That sounds pretty good. Why don't I book that? Don't do it. Don't ever book the Circus in Las Vegas. But I would say that the cheapest accommodation is rarely the safest. So sacrificing safety for budget, in my opinion, is a poor trade-off. Paying a few more dollars for a highly rated, centrally located, and secure property, I think is a good investment that a solo traveler can make. Cottage Full of Love points out that resorts are nice too. Bars and fun activities, absolutely. So this, obviously puts you up in the higher end of things. But, if you're going to Hawaii or you're going to the Caribbean or something like that, there are tons of these resorts that'll have activities. 8 a.m. you can do morning yoga. 10 a.m. you can do lei making. At noon you can learn how to play the ukulele or something like that. And so that's another setting. If you're by yourself, you can still get involved in a lot of activities. The 13th solo travel tip is to book an airport hotel for late arrival. So if you're getting into a destination and your flight lands late at night, like 11 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m., I would say, particularly if it's your first time traveling solo, you should not attempt to navigate the city's transit network at that late hour in the dark. It's a recipe for disaster. The safest and easiest option is if you're flying into like a big major airport. Many big major airports have hotels that are either directly connected to them or right next to them. Book a hotel there. We've done that going into Tokyo Haneda Airport, where we had a flight that arrived at 1 a.m., and we're pros in Tokyo, but we didn't want to go anywhere at 1 in the morning, and so we just stayed right at the airport. We didn't sleep in that room for long. We were there for 6 or 7 hours or something like that, but it was well worth it to do that. You'll pay a premium price to do that, but no nonsense says, I learned that tip the hard way in Singapore. Always just stay at the airport till when you have a late arrival. Or Brooklyn Joe says perhaps with an airport shuttle. Absolutely. If it's one that's not on property, it's got an airport shuttle, that's another good way to do it too, because then it's pretty easy to figure out how to get there. All you do is find the airport shuttle and then you can get to the hotel. Me personally, I love to get ones that are just, if it is an option, to get the one directly connected to the terminal or that you can walk to, because that's just even more straightforward. Thank you for the support, TJ. TJ says, I spent hours watching your videos prepping for a Hawaii trip tomorrow. Aloha, and I hope you enjoy Hawaii. Thank you so much. Okay. Solo travel tip number 14 is to plan and book your arrival transport if you need to book it. But if you don't even need to book it, have it planned. So again, talked about getting to the hotel. If you can walk to your hotel, easy. That's your plan. Walk there. But if it's not walking there and you need to take a bus, take a taxi, take a train, do those things, don't try to figure that out once you get to the airport. Figure that out and know exactly where you're gonna go, when you get to the airport, where the bus stop is, where the train is, how you buy the tickets. I really think that the first 24 hours in a destination are the most critical to have sorted out, because this is honestly where most of the scams come in about people selling you fake bus tickets, fake taxis, fake ride shares. And so I would encourage you to have a primary plan of this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take the train because that's the best one, but then have a backup plan, because if the train's on strike and that doesn't work, then have the address of the hotel printed out on a piece of paper in the local language so that you can show it to a taxi if you need to do that, for example. And if it's your first solo travel trip, consider booking a tour for your first full day there. I don't mean a guided bus tour or things like that, but there's a lot of destinations where there are day tours, and maybe it's not even a day tour, but a lot of destinations, there are places that'll do free walking tours, food tours, cooking classes, double-decker bus tours, hop-on, hop-off tours, things like that. That is a great way to avoid and overcome the initial loneliness and also orient yourself to a new city. When we were in Bath, we took a tour of Bath in the UK. In the UK in Bath, there's a group of volunteers, and they meet every day in in the center of the city, and they take you on a great couple-hour tour of Bath. And I would do it by myself. We also did it as a group, but just was a great way to also feel connected to some locals, even if we were just listening to them. It's kind of the same way you feel a little bit connected to me. And many of you are not American watching this, and maybe I feel like you're your American friend. All right, I'm thirsty. What's your American friend drinking today? Your American friend today is drinking this royal milk tea from Kirin from Japan. This is one of my favorite bottled milk teas. And it's kind of like an Earl Grey milk tea. So very pleasant taste. Okay. So in addition to booking a tour for your first day. I said this a little bit before as part of another tip, but it's a formal tip. Tip number 16 is to absolutely consider a group tour for your first trip. Now, for travelers who are particularly nervous of solo travel, the hybrid approach is absolutely a valid option. Joining a group tour or an organized tour can serve as training wheels for your trip. You are still traveling solo, but you benefit from the safety and social structure of this place where everybody's telling you where to go or what to do, and a built-in group of travel companions, but you can still have left your house yourself, gone to the airport yourself, gone to the destination yourself, and then joined the tour once you're there. Tip number 17 is to plan a loose itinerary. I think it's important to strike a balance between over-planning, which kills spontaneity, and under-planning, which creates stress, because then you're trying to figure out what to do and feel like you're wasting your time. What I recommend is planning 1 or 2 major activities that you want to do every day. Like every day I'm going to do this or this, or this and this, and then some optional activities that you can fill in if you have the time, and if you are traveling between cities, to also have pre-booked the travel between cities. So for example, on our recent Japan trip, we were going to Tokyo, Sendai, and then back to Tokyo. And so, you know, the first thing we do is we book our flights. The second thing we do is we book our hotels. And then the third thing we do is book our trains, our Shinkansen, to go between the cities. And yes, that means we have to pick times and build in some times. And those trains were booked a month ahead of time. But then that was the barrier. We're like, okay, now that I've booked these trains, what are the things I can do in the time that you have left? Okay. Before we get to tip number 18, which is all about packing and gear, I want to share a little bit more from this video's sponsor, which is Extra, the maker of fine travel wallets, but they make more than just fine travel wallets. They also have this cool new vacuum travel bag that they're making right here. And this vacuum travel bag, I've usually been pretty down on vacuum travel bags. When people ask me, Chris, do you recommend vacuum travel bags? I've usually said no, because my experience with them has typically been pretty lousy, but not with these. This is a really good vacuum travel bag. And so the way this travel bag, it's really durable. It's got this big zipper in it that you open up, and then you can pack a bunch of stuff in it. So for example, we can get this sweatshirt, this Yellow Production sweatshirt right there. We can stick that in there. We can get a red panda right here, and we can stick that in the vacuum bag. And then we can get this little panda right here, and we can stick that in the travel bag. These travel bags are sized to fit in a carry-on, and you know, so they're in a bag. That's helpful. You take this zipper, you zip it up. But I feel like the real revolution in these, not just being durable, you don't like roll it to get the air out. You open up this little valve right here, and then after you've opened up that valve, it comes with this really powerful USB-C vacuum, this little vacuum. And so you stick this vacuum in here, and you turn it on, and then look what happens. All the air is coming out of the vacuum bag. It is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. It's a big bag. I kind of put a lot of air in it. But this vacuum, I know it's kind of loud, right? This vacuum is good for 15 to 20 charges. And there we go. And so look how much smaller that thing is. It's particularly good if you have big fluffy things like that. And now you can put that in your suitcase, a very much smaller bag of pandas and Yellow Production shirt. It works well if you have big fluffy things like big jackets, you're going to someplace cold, you got big things you want to put in there. The regular price for this is $138, but Extra right now is having their Black Friday sale, where they're offering it on sale for $89. And they've actually got a sale site-wide for up to 54% off products site-wide, which include their fancy travel wallets, which, by the way, if you haven't seen these before, they're kind of like this little wallet. You can put all these cards in, you push this button, then it brings them out like that. So these are pretty cool. The sale also includes their Find My cards. This is like an Apple AirTag, except it's in a It's in a little card form factor like this. So this is rechargeable via USB-C. It's got like a couple little prongs on it and this cable, and you can recharge it so you never have to replace the batteries, unlike your AirTag. So you can just keep using that forever. And the 10% off code YELLOW will work on anything on sale, and it'll get you 10% more off your purchase. So thank you so much to Extra. And if you're looking for a vacuum travel bag, consider their Extra Travel Pack vacuum kit. All right, back to the next tip. Whoop. That panda, he doesn't belong there. That panda doesn't belong there. Oh, but we'll go to a couple comments before. Twinson says, welcome to Panda Express Travel Bags. And Andrea says, I just squished my baby. You just squished my babies. Oh, I know I did. Oh, by the way, this will, if you have other vacuums, it'll work with any other vacuums. But it's so much better than rolling them up. I should let them out of there, right? Let's let them out of the bag, shall we? I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. No, I'm gonna let the pandas out of the bag so they don't suffocate in there, airless. Thank you for making me be a good panda daddy. Okay, there we go. That just opens up, then you're done. So, whoop. All right. Funalicious says, the pandas know what they are getting into when they go on a trip. We do always have a joke about, they know what they're going to get into. And so OC Girl and I sort of always do a thing to be like, well, hopefully you'll make it back home because, we have had some Tophers that haven't made it home. All right. Deli Belly says, I just got back from my first solo trip to Singapore, Philippines, and Taiwan. Went for a month. Awesome, Deli Belly. That sounds like a great trip. College Full of Love says, I love vacuum travel bags for carry-on. Really saved us. John says, please fold and roll the clothes and place in a bag. Brooklyn Joe wants to know if they make them in person for a whole person. I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. I'll ask Extra and let you know. Jason says, I've seen those ad for vacuum bags on Facebook and Insta. Absolutely, they have a lot of ads. And so that was also why they said, Chris, would you like to talk about this bag? And I'm kind of like, I would, because I'd like to see it, because I saw all the ads too. And so I really think the innovation on this, and by the way, Extra's getting a lot of value on this sponsorship segment, but I think that the real value on this is this little small USB vacuum that, boy, it's loud. And yes, it took a little while. But it's not that long, right? It just takes a lot longer when you're on a live stream and you're sitting here watching me, like watching water boil. Okay. Let's go on to the next tip. Tip number 19. There we go. Too far. Tip number 18, because it relates to the vacuum travel bag, which is to pack only what you can carry. I see so many people make this mistake, and they have all this stuff. They've got 3 rollerboards and 2 duffel bags and 6 backpacks. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but I've seen so many solo travelers at the airport counter with so much stuff. And so you need to have this physical test of, before leaving your house, can you walk around and navigate the steps multiple times with all your stuff? If you can't, then you've got too much stuff. Figured out how to have less stuff. Because you, by yourself, are the only person who's responsible for all your belongings. So absolutely making them light enough that you can, if you're carrying them on, put them in the overhead of the plane. If not, put them under your seat. Figure out a way that you can manage what you are carrying. Okay. 19 solo travel tip is to leave the LV bag at home. Do not bring flashy jewelry, designer luggage, or any item that would be devastating to lose. You lose stuff when you travel. Ideally, you don't want it stolen, but you know what? Particularly if you're checking in luggage, you might never see that bag back or any of the things that are in it. Also, the designer stuff does make you, if you're carrying it, a prime target for theft. I would say the goal when you're traveling is absolutely to be understated rather than be like, ooh, look at my expensive stuff. Tip number 20 is to pack a day bag so that when you're out and about, you're not carrying like a huge backpack, but you've got a day bag, either a small backpack or a crossbody bag. I like pack safe bags because they have a lot of anti-theft features built in. Backpacks, I don't recommend the big ones, and I don't even recommend kind of like standard JanSport ones. I have nothing against JanSport. I wear a JanSport backpack when I travel on the planes, but I don't wear it when I'm out touristing in the day because nylon backpacks are prime targets for thieves. Their zippers are easy to open and they're easy to slash open, so it's better to have things that you have in front of you, or if you are wearing a backpack, an anti-theft one that people can't slash. Mermaid Mom says, just like the locals, you don't stand out. Blue Tornado says you will be an easy target for carrying a designer bag. Absolutely. Point Traveler says, I just got back from Japan and bought a suitcase just for souvenirs for the flight back. That's another way to do it too, where you travel light to the destination and then maybe you can travel heavy coming back. We do that quite a bit, where we might so this is less solo travel. It's more than when you have a few people. But on our last trip to Japan, we packed one suitcase for like OC Girl and I, and then we packed another suitcase with another suitcase in it, so that we had 3 suitcases total, but we only checked 2 on the way there. 2 suitcases that were packed, and one of those was packed inside another suitcase, and so that other suitcase that one was packed into now became a 3rd suitcase for us to bring home from our final hotel, because it was easy then at that point. We only had one last thing to go, which was hotel, lobby, taxi, airport, check-in, which, like, if we were trying to navigate train stations with a lot of stuff and things like that, it would have been absolutely one too many bags. Okay. Solo travel tip 21 is if you're worried about hotel security, like people coming and breaking and entering into your room, pack a portable door lock for your hotel room. There are many different types of them that are sold. A very simple one is a simple rubber doorstop, like a simple rubber triangle. Honestly, it'll make it much harder for anybody to get into your room, and so that can add peace of mind to your hotel, hostel, or Airbnb, who, a lot of these hotels or Airbnbs where you just have like a PIN code to get in, like how many other people have that PIN code? So you can invest in some pretty inexpensive door locks to give you some peace of mind while you are sawing the logs and dreaming up your Z's at night. Solo travel tip number 22 is to bring a travel journal and pen. Solo travel time, you have a lot of time for personal reflection. You have a lot of time where you're waiting at the restaurant for something. You have a lot of time where you're waiting around for things. That's just the nature of travel, and what do you do to not make yourself lonely? One thing you could do is you could doom scroll Instagram, which this makes you more lonelier because then you see all the other people that are posting all these other things and you're not there or they're not there. Or you can journal your thoughts and think about your day and write your day down and have a journal to reflect on. I do this in the form of vlogs, like when I've got some time, I'm by myself, I'm vlogging, talking about the experience. Or if I'm not vlogging, I guess I'm more of a digital person rather than a paper person. But when I am writing notes to my travel vlogs or writing notes to my guides or writing notes for live stream later, I open up Google Docs on my phone. And like our Colorado Springs, Colorado Springs guide, I've got like right here, and I'm writing this while I'm at the destination. I'm sitting there and we're waiting for our food and just tapping away, writing this in there. So, yes. Twinson says, doom scroll Facebook. Sounds like me. All right. Well, only if you're doom scrolling Yellow Productions on Facebook, then that's totally fine. Okay. Tip number 23 for solo travel brings us into the money and documents section of the tips. And so the tip number 23 is to print and store copies of your passport, and also to print analog backups of your essential documents. So if you're going on an international trip, you need a passport, and sometimes those can get lost or they can get stolen. And so if you need to replace those, it's useful to have a copy of it so you know your passport number, you have the photo, all those things. So my suggestion for a multi-layered backup solution for you is to, one, email a high-quality scan to yourself, so it's in your email box, or to a trusted contact so they have it and they can send it to you. Store an electronic copy in a cloud service of your choice, Google Drive, Dropbox, and then carry a a couple of physical copies of your passport, perhaps in different locations. So if you have a backpack that you're traveling with, put one in there. If you've got a suitcase that you're traveling with, put one in there. And always keep the copies separate from your actual passport. The other benefit of sticking copies of your passport in places like your suitcase that you're checking in is if that suitcase happens to get lost and all the tags are lost and they're trying to reunite it to you, by having a copy of your passport in there, they'll be able to know whose thing that was, and it's something on the inside that'll help them find that out. I usually, in my suitcase, will have a copy of my passport on a piece of paper, and I'll say, this bag belongs to, and I'll even stick my contact information on it. Yes, I've got a tag on the outside, but I have a copy of that on the inside. And then the same thing for your hotel reservations. Technology fails or gets stolen or runs out of batteries, so have printed copies of your all transit things, planes, trains, rental car, automobiles, and hotels, and directions if you need them. I also think it's useful when you're traveling to have a cheap watch. Okay, this isn't a cheap watch. This isn't a cheap watch at all. But to have a watch like this, as opposed to needing this to always look at the time, because one of the primary theft targets nowadays is people stealing phones. And so if you always have to look at your phone to know what time it is, you just become another theft target, where if you can just look at your watch, it's a lot easier. And, assuming you're wearing a cheap Timex or Casio or something like that, nobody's going to steal it off your wrist. Keep your fancy Rolex at home. Solo travel tip 24, related to credit cards and debit cards, is to bring 2 different debit cards and credit cards. And in this case, so I recommend 4. I bring 4 total. I bring 2 debit ATM cards that I can use to withdraw money at ATMs in the destination. And then I bring 2 credit cards that I use to buy stuff of different providers. 1 Visa, 1 MasterCard, and me personally, I'll bring 3. So then I've got an American Express too. Why? Because some places offer discounts from American Express, but that's not why you do that. You do it so that you have these cards from other banks, so that if one gets declined, likely the other one doesn't. One gets stolen, likely the other one doesn't. And on the debit cards they use to get money out, that's probably also ones that are useful to only carry one with you at a time, so that you've got another one back in a safe place, so that if the things on you get snagged, then you've still got a card somewhere else that you can use to get some cash. Justin Thomas recommends adding your cards to Apple Wallet will help as a backup. All right, thank you for that tip, Justin. It's a good tip as well. It's useful to, if you lose that stuff, but you have your phone, to still be able to pay for things. Brooklyn Joe says, I've never lost anything except my mind. Very good. Brooklyn Joe says, I arrived to Tokyo and realized I didn't have any debit cards with me. My other tip here then becomes, leads into 25, which is to always bring some money. Always bring some paper money, even though you don't have to use it. If you find you got there and you didn't have debit cards to get any money, you've got money that you can exchange at an exchange place. I recommend not ever using the physical currency exchange places in foreign countries, but having it so that you could use it is absolutely important. And I would recommend keeping your actual money in multiple places. So that way, one gets lost or stolen, you've got some more somewhere else. Is it too hand wavy to show you on that? Right. Okay. Tip number 26 for solo travel is to use local ATMs and not currency exchanges. So airport exchange kiosks offer the worst possible exchange rates. The best and cheapest way to get local currency is going to be at a local bank ATM at the destination. When the ATM offers conversion and the ATM comes up and says, hey, we've got this thing called dynamic currency conversion where you can withdraw your money in your local thing and avoid your bank conversion fees, and instead we're just going to charge you the very reasonable currency conversion fee of 4,000%. Don't do that. Allow your home bank to perform the conversion. It's always going to work out better for you. Also, if you're withdrawing money at the airport, do try to pay attention to the bank ATMs versus the currency exchange company ATMs. You will often find both at airports, and the bank ATMs will provide better exchange rates than the Travelex ATMs will. And Twinson says, this is where Chris will recommend 7-Eleven in Japan. When my Tokyo guide comes out, I will absolutely recommend 7-Eleven in Japan. But since Twinson brings it up, absolutely, if you're going to Japan, the best place to get your money out of an ATM is 7-Eleven, for sure. Okay. Melissa says, I love having everything in paper, not phones. I hate having everything on the phones. Mermaid Mom recommends RFID wallets to protect your cards. The Wu-Tang Life recommends wearing a money belt, or you can wear like a money necklace too. Brooklyn Joe says, I had cash, which is good. So it's good you had that as a fallback. John says, in addition to 7-Eleven, Family Mart as well. Jason says, do you order a certain amount of foreign currency before traveling as a backup? No, I just bring US dollars, knowing that I can always exchange US dollars when I get to my destination. I mean, if your home country is a currency that not every place accepts a currency exchange, then you might want to consider having some currency in a world currency that could be exchanged any place that you go. Okay. And Janelle says, if you're enjoying this video, please give it a like. Thank you very much for reminding everyone and remind me to say that. So it really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm, lets YouTube know that you're enjoying the video so YouTube can share it with more people, whether you're watching the live stream or watching the archive. That thumbs up button really helps. Thank you so much. Solo travel tip number 27 is to always have small bills and coins. Don't always be trying to break $100 bills or whatever that is in the local currency, 10,000 yen, to try to, if you are using paper currency, and even if you aren't, for the sake of when you need it for emergency, try to maintain a supply of small denomination currency for things like tips, local buses, public bathrooms, market purchases. Large bills are generally well broken at supermarkets or major stores or big restaurants. Because if you're trying to have the taxi break your $100 bill, you're likely going to be met with like, I don't have it. Can you just give me the whole $100? Of course. And just having those big bills in a lot of places can be a bit flashy and some attention that you probably don't want to enjoy. The intention you don't want to attract. Okay, tips number 28 to 32. We're going to go into digital safety and tech for your solo travels. Blue Tornado says, if you count all my layered things, we're up to 50 tips. No, we're up to 50 likes. We're up to 61 now. All right, thank you very much for everybody who hit that like button. Okay, solo travel tip number 28 is to get international data or mobile data wherever you're going. I think before this might have been a luxury to have like world international roaming data. I don't think this is anymore. To me, this is a non-negotiable safety item. Having access to maps, translation apps, or emergency contacts is essential. And not just that, but being able to call a rideshare. I talked about this a little bit in the beginning of being able to call an Uber or Lyft or taxi, wherever you are, or a Grab, whatever the rideshare is. It should be like if you're lost and you don't know where you're going and you don't know how to get back to your hotel, just to be like, bring a car to me and take me take me home is super valuable. You can buy a local SIM card upon arrival, but I think it's better to buy an eSIM before you go because you have it, it works, you don't have to be navigating that when you get there. Yes, Brooklyn Joe says, if you have T-Mobile, then it's free with T-Mobile. And I have T-Mobile, and so if I'm going to a place and won't be there very long and I don't need a lot of data, then absolutely I'll just use my free T-Mobile roaming service. If I am going for a longer time and I want higher speed internet, then I'll usually buy an eSIM from SIM Local. Okay. 29, download offline Google Maps. So yeah, you got an eSIM, you've got mobile data, but you're in the middle of nowhere and you don't have cell service. And you need to figure out where you are and how you can get out of there. And you do that by having offline maps. Google Maps, Apple Maps, any mapping app that you have will have a way that you can download the offline maps so that you can see maps even if you don't have cell service. Do that before you go. Tip number 30 is to bring a portable power bank. You also never want this thing to run out of battery, knowing that this thing is your lifeline. you know, it's your map, it's your camera, it's your communication device, it's your translator, its battery cannot be allowed to die. Bring another US battery backup that you can charge it if you need to. I was listening to a video the other day by Hank Green. For those who know Hank Green, he started VidCon, and Hank was talking about one time he tried to sneak into a Google office someplace, not because he really wanted to get into the Google office, just because he needed to charge his cell phone because his cell phone ran out of batteries and he couldn't charge it to call an Uber or Lyft to get back to his hotel without finding some place that he could plug it in. So if you have a portable power bank, that's not a problem. Tip number 31, be smart on social media. It is extremely unwise to post in real time about where you are, where you're staying. I just checked into this hotel. Doing so is a public announcement that I'm a tourist and I'm here and I'm alone. So I think travelers should wait until they've left the location or post on a significant delay so that people can't actively track you. And definitely while you're at a hotel or hostel, don't post the name of that right then and there. People always kind of say these things to me like, you know, oh, Chris, I just saw you got someplace and you just came back. And I'm like, chances are I'm probably posting that on delay. Chances are that I'm probably not exactly there when I post it. I've probably left there when I've posted it. Justin Thomas also says, never post a photo of your boarding pass. That is a great tip as well. We were just in Colorado Springs and Denver. Boy, compared to Southern California, let me tell you, Colorado is dry, really dry. So I gotta drink a lot to get hydrated. And when I say just got back, I mean like we just got back last night. So you're gonna see a lot more. You are definitely gonna see some Colorado content, some Denver content, and some Colorado Springs content coming at you soon. But I definitely won't be in Colorado anymore because I'm not when it gets posted. Tip 32 is to use Find My and location sharing for peace of mind. If you have a loved one that you can share your location with, or you can share your Find My Apple location with, or you can use Life 360, share your whereabouts with them so that if anything happens, they can like know where you were. They can know where you went hiking. They can know where your last location is. That's super useful. Okay. Tip number 33. Brings us into the second section about street smarts and how to avoid being a target. So tip 33 is the opposite of a rule that we talked about before. My rule before was don't arrive late at night. So this tip is arrive during the day. And so in the daytime, what do I mean by the daytime? I would say before 3 p.m. in most destinations. And I don't just mean arrive when it's daylight, but I mean arrive with enough time to get off the plane, get your bags, go through customs, take the transport, and get to your hotel, all while it's daylight, all potentially if your plane's delayed for a couple hours. So you can do the math. I think it's worth more for paying for a flight that lands at noon than it is to get the super cheap flight that lands at midnight, unless you're then going to use that savings to stay at the airport hotel. That might cost you a little bit more. Tip 34 is to walk with confidence and don't look like you're lost. And if you are lost, consult your maps privately. This is the fake it until you make it principle. Predators will seek easy targets. Those who look lost, those who look confused. A traveler must walk with purpose, heads up, shoulders back like you know where you're going, even if you don't. And standing on a street corner, looking at a large paper map or staring at your phone is an invitation for trouble. If you do need to do that and consult it for a long time, hop into a cafe, a shop, or a hotel lobby where you might not have a lot of eyes on the street on you. If you are walking and you need Google Maps directions, consider using AirPods or some kind of small wireless earbud headphone with your phone in your pocket, and you can get the walking audio directions to tell you things like turn left, turn right. That way you don't have to be staring at the directions on your phone to figure out where you're going. But just one earbud, so you have the other ear open so that you can hear what's going on around you and in the city. Jason says, getting lost is a great opportunity to explore. Absolutely is. Okay. There's a whole comment in the chat about people posting where they are, and Brooklyn Joe says, if I don't post where I am, how are all the women supposed to know where I'm at? Okay, Joe, then you can let them know. Joe's in the lobby of the Park Hyatt Tokyo right now. Meet me there. Okay. Tip 35 is to be a skeptic of unsolicited help. The overly helpful stranger, especially at a train station or an airport, is a classic scam artist. If help is needed, you should be the one to initiate the help. When people come up to you and initiate to offer help, be very concerned. Be very concerned. The safest approach for needing help places is not to ask anybody who's just standing around a train station, standing in front of an airport, but to go find someone behind a counter, a shopkeeper, and ask them where to go. I would also say ask a family. You know, if people are traveling with kids, usually they're not scammers, particularly if they've got strollers and baby things and this and that. So trust your gut and trust your spidey sense. If a person, a street, or situation feels wrong, it probably is. And so leave your intuition on, high mode and just get out of there. There's a channel by a Czech guy. By the way, I'm half Czech. My mom's from the Czech Republic. So there's a channel, the Czech guy. I think the channel name is Honest Guides, and he exposes scams in Prague, in the Czech Republic. And like a scam that he unveiled, including having video of the person or people who do this, is there's like a guy at the airport in the Czech Republic who he offers help with the bus ticket machines. He walks up and, oh, do you need help? Can I help you with it? And he legitimately helps people with the bus tickets. But then as he's talking to you and builds up your confidence, and no, he's friendly, he's useful, he bought a bus ticket for me, he then tells you, oh, this machine only takes cash. The card reader doesn't work. Do you have cash? And if you haven't exchanged money yet, then he'll offer to change money for you and just changes it at a really awful exchange rate. And so, there are all these different types of scams, but in this one, this guy is coming up to help people that don't know how to use the bus ticket machine. And so the classic, as people unsolicited try to help you, you don't want their help. Yes, and Twinson says, I've seen that video. He wears a mask. Absolutely. Okay. Solo travel tip number 36 is learn to be impolite. Many people are socially conditioned to be polite even when uncomfortable. And I would say this is a liability because a solo traveler must be willing to be impolite, to use a firm, loud no if you need to ignore somebody, to be rude, and to walk away from anybody who is making you feel unsafe. Tip number 37 is to be cautious at night. As a general rule, nothing good happens after midnight, as my mom always told me, so it must be true. And so definitely try to stick to well-lit areas with many people, know what time the shops and restaurants close, and be back at your hotel. It's safer to go out early in the morning. When I'm traveling, we like to start our days early, and we like to end them early too, typically by 9 or 10 o'clock. We're back in the hotel room, often by 8 o'clock. We're back in the hotel room. But in Colorado Springs, we might be out at 7:30 to head out because, the well, it's too cold. It was too cold to go out earlier. Chris, you could have gone early. The Garden of the Gods opens at 5 a.m. in Colorado Springs. Okay, there is too early, but less bad things happen at 5 in the morning than at 2 in the morning. Solo travel tip number 38 is to ask the hotel or hotel concierge or bed and breakfast staff for safety tips. I think your hotel staff is often an underused resource for most people. And so, when you're checking in or when you're out to go out for a walk or something like that, you can just ask, you can ask two questions like, hey, I'm going for a walk. Are there any places you recommend? Or any place I should avoid? Any place you don't recommend? Are there any local scams that I should be aware of? And your hotel staff will be happy to share all of those things with you. I was in Marseille, France a few years back, and I was staying at a Holiday Inn near the main train station, and I asked this question, and they're basically like, yeah, there's this one street, only walk on this street. don't go to these side streets. It's kind of a sketchy neighborhood around the Marseille train station. So that was useful, helpful advice to have. Okay. As we go on to tip number 39, we're going to talk about socializing and beating loneliness for the next 6 tips. So we talked a little bit about accommodations, but tip 39 is to stay in social accommodation if you want to meet people. Stay in a hostel, a B&B, or a small inn and go hang out in the common area. So it's not just enough to stay in one of these, but if you want to meet people, you're that extrovert, then be there. Be where the people are. Don't spend the time back in your room. If you're going to be online or your email, go to that social meeting place of that thing and meet the people. That doesn't work. Use Meetup apps. There's meetup.com. There's Facebook group. There's a whole bunch of places. If you want to meet people in a destination, you can do that. Say yes. This is the magic of solo travel. If you are an extrovert and you are invited to something, you're invited to join a dinner table, you're invited to a spontaneous outing, say yes. The answer should be yes, provided the situation feels safe. But this is how one can step out of their comfort zone and go hang out with a bunch of people and go do something. You know, maybe it's somebody says like, hey, what are you considering doing tomorrow? You could be like, what are you doing tomorrow? I don't know, but do you want to go to this? Okay, sure, we could go to that. 42, use food as you're in. I think food is a universal connector. So a great way to like meet other people in a not like Tinder hookup situation is to take a cooking class. In many destinations, you can you cook with other people. They teach you how to cook. Join a foodie tour. Eat at communal tables or eat at the bar at a restaurant. Jason says, "But I love my loneliness." Well, it's good for you, Jason. then don't do any of these things. But if you do want to be social, tip number 43 is to be the connector. So instead of waiting to be invited, you can invite somebody. You could say, like, hey, if you're in a foodie tour, you could ask the other people, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Do you want to go hang out and do this or something like that? Okay. Tip number 44 is to talk to locals safely. Who are other people you could ask other than the hotel staff? You can have safe, low-pressure interactions with baristas, shopkeepers, B&B hosts, wait staff at restaurants. When we were on the Big Island recently, we were at Zippy's, which is a Hawaiian version of Denny's. It's like a Hawaiian diner, and we asked the waitress. We said, "Hey, we're going to the Volcano National Park tomorrow. Like, you have any recommendations? Things we should do, things we should go, things we shouldn't see?" And she was a wealth of information. She loved to chat with us because Zippy's wasn't very busy when we were there. And she told us, hey, yeah, when you're there, make sure to go see the lava at night because you can't see it very well in the day. It's better to see it at night. And we would not have known that unless our friendly waitress at Zippy's told us. Okay. Brooklyn Joe says some hotels like Embassy Suites can have happy hour free food and drinks so you can meet people there. That is a great tip, Brooklyn Joe. Tip number 45, and this goes back to Jason's comment of, but I love my loneliness, is to embrace the solitude. You know what? Moments of loneliness are inevitable, and it's important to reframe this. It is not loneliness, it is solitude. And that's okay. It is a dedicated time for self-reflection, reading in a cafe, writing in your journal. This is the solo part of the trip, and it should be treasured, not entirely avoided. Okay, we're rounding out the tips here. Few last tips about how to master your on-the-ground experience. 46 is to master the art of solo dining. Which brings us back to something I mentioned at the beginning, that a common fear for many first-timers is eating out by themselves. And I think it's best to start with fast casual restaurants or cafes, places where you order at the counter, they bring your food. Bringing a prop like a book can often ease the feeling of awkwardness about, well, what do I do with my time where I just sit here and stare? Sitting at the bar is more social because you can sit at the bar. If it has an open kitchen, you can watch them in the kitchen. You can totally doom scroll Instagram too. It gives you something to do. But when I'm sitting there, if I'm not writing my journal, then I'm researching what to do next. So I'm not just staring out into space. When you're at destinations and international locations, you should also avoid the tourist trap restaurants where the menu is written in 13 different languages. It's always bad food. Okay. Tip number 47, how to get photos of yourself. This is a common practical concern that many people get their phone or their camera stolen. So if you are by yourself and you want to get photos of yourself, well, one, bring a selfie stick so you can hold it and get photos of yourself, or a lightweight travel tripod, but don't walk too far away with it because sometimes people can rip off things on tripods. If you're asking a stranger to take your photo, ask the right person. The safest people to ask are no solo travel, but probably not another solo traveler. A couple, a family with a stroller, or somebody else with a large professional style looking camera. They're probably not going to steal yours because theirs is better. I would generally avoid having people take your photo that ask you if you want them to take their photo, because who is most likely to steal your stuff is the unsolicited help. I break all my own rules. When we were on Pikes Peak, there was a Korean family and husband, wife, 2 kids. The mom of the family asked OC Girl and myself, well, I guess she asked me, if we wanted her to take our photo. And in a lot of Asian countries, I understand how this works, which is they actually want us to take their photo. And so I'm like, sure, you can take our photo. And then I'm like, oh, would you like us to take your photo? And yeah, please take our photo. So they were not going to run off with our camera because I could run after their kids faster than they could run. Okay. My legs are longer. Tip 48 is if you're worried about your camera getting stolen, take analog photos. Take a cheaper point and shoot photo. You know, take the point, like the little Kodak twist thing, have it developed. Nobody's gonna steal that. So you can hand that to somebody else and be like, can you please take a picture of me? Nobody's gonna run off with your cheap point and shoot camera. And yes, there are places that still develop those. Or you can buy a cheap $100 digital camera, and if somebody runs off with that, they're not running off with your Lifeline, your $1,000 phone. Yeah, the Wu-Tang Life says, I never hand my phone to anyone. Or you can consider bringing an old phone. You know, if you have an older iPhone or an older Android phone, bring that one and use that one if you need to hand it to people, so that if they run off with it, you know, it's not logged into your account, doesn't have any of your personal information. It's sort of okay. Tip number 49 is to start your day early. This is a professional travel tip. By waking up early, you can get to the tourist sites before the crowds. You can get the best food at the breakfast buffet. You can enjoy better light for those photos that you take with your selfie stick. And the early morning hours are always safer than the late night hours. This also applies to meals. If you don't want to sit around and wait for meals, if you've got up early and had breakfast early, then you can have lunch early. You can have an 11 a.m. lunch, and then you can have a 5 p.m. dinner, which means never having to wait in line. That's where you will typically find me on my trips. First at breakfast in the morning, I will often be the one at the breakfast restaurant waiting for them to open, which annoys me in France because they're not very timely in France. So like, you know, when they post at 6:30 that the breakfast buffet opens and I'm there at 6:32 and the breakfast buffet isn't open, French people, come on, tick-tock, tick-tock. Okay, Hawaii people, same thing. Tick-tock, tick-tock. I know I'm on island time, but like I got places to go, you know. Because I need to get to lunch early. That's why I need to get my breakfast early. Okay. And finally, tip number 50 for solo travel is to give yourself grace. Things will go wrong on any trip that you go on. You will get on the wrong train. You will overpay for a souvenir. Or you'll have a day where you're feeling lonely or unadventurous. It's okay. It's all normal. It's all part of the learning process. Honestly, it's just part of travel. The most important thing is to be flexible, be patient, and to give yourself grace, because it's your trip and it's going to be done your way, however that is, however it turns up. But I like to say that travel is most importantly about the journey and actually not about the destination. I mean, destinations make a big difference, but you need to enjoy the journey along the way, whatever way that is. All right, those are the 50 solo travel tips. Now let's go to Q&A time.
Fellow explorers, it is now Q&A time. If you've got a question, I've got an answer.
All right, fellow explorers, Q&A time. Kathy says, I am not a morning person. I am not a morning person either. But once I'm in a different time zone, I'm like, whatever. I'll just do it. It doesn't matter to me. I was not in my usual sleep pattern anyway. So I might as well just adapt to a different time, which in that case is getting up early. Jay says, thank you for these great tips. You are welcome, Jay. The last tip advice, I've done quite a bit over the years, which is giving yourself grace or making the mistakes. Which ones? Lori says, when in rural areas, make sure you have gas. That's a good tip. Yeah, I like to fill up if I'm doing like a road trip or things like that. half tank. Once I get below a half tank, just go ahead and fill up because you never know when the gas station is going to be when you're out in the middle of nowhere. John says, sometimes solo trips I fast and not eat so I can spend that money on cool things. All right, that's an interesting tip. Chopsticks Forever says, another tip is register for STEP, the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, a free service to allow U.S. citizens and nationals to enroll their trip abroad so the U.S. Department of State can accurately and quickly contact them in case of emergency. Thank you for that tip. Codge Full of Love says, the weather in Belize right now is cold and rainy, putting such a damper on our trip. We are trying so hard to make the best of it. Being flexible is such a great tip. Yeah, and that's it. You can't control the weather, so you just need to be like, well, hopefully we're still having a good time. We're here at least. You're inside right now. You're dry. I assume that you're not watching the live stream outside, and maybe there's some great museums or shopping malls that you can go to. Twinson says, how is the security riding Amtrak alone and coach? I think fine. I haven't heard any bizarre stories to avoid Amtrak. Jason says the giving grace part is what I do quite a bit. Good. Fantastic. Brooklyn Joe says, my friend Brian is on a solo trip and watching. Can you say hi to Brian? Hi, Brian. Enjoy your solo travel trip, and thank you so much for watching Yellow Productions. Okay. Funalicious also says, early is so hard for me. And this is, I back on the not being a morning person. Absolutely not a morning person. My background's in educational backgrounds in computer science as a software developer. When I was going to school at San Diego State University, night owl. I would take all night classes. I'd be up till 3 a.m. writing code because it's just a great time to write code and dive into the matrix. But I've learned in the world of travel that early just works better. Early flights work better. I don't like 7 a.m. flights. I don't like to. In Toulon, France, I remember when I was going back to Marseille to fly out, and I think I was taking the train in Toulon at 4 in the morning. 4:30 in the morning, our train left Toulon, which means we had to have a taxi at the hotel at 4. I did not enjoy that, but I did enjoy my flight leaving on time. Early morning flights always leave more on time than midday flights because the planes are typically there from the night before. The exception to this rule is if you're in some foggy destination where it gets fogged in at night and then the planes might not be there in the morning, but the rule usually works out well. Collegeville of Love says, anybody experienced terrible airport delays due to the shutdown? Nervous to flying again in a week. I hear it's bad right now. United's even warned me through the app. I'll give you 2 data points. One positive data point is we just flew back and forth from Denver, from Orange County. We had no flight delays going back and forth from Denver to Orange County. Or there's a list of 40 airports that the FAA has released as the ones that they're reducing flights to. On the major airlines, if you're flying from the U.S. internationally on long-haul stuff, the airlines are trying to prioritize those flights. If you are flying domestically to the airports that are impacted and maybe they aren't hub things or they're on smaller planes, those are the ones the airlines are going to cancel. They're going to cancel because it's not about reducing number of passengers, it's about reducing the number of flights because there's not enough flight controllers for the FAA. So my related story to this, though, was I was talking to somebody who they were going from San Diego to New York and connecting through Atlanta, and it took them 2 days to do so because every flight they were on kept getting canceled. They kept going other places to actually get where they were going. So the budget, I think, just passed in the USA, so the federal government should reopen, but it's probably going to take a while for all the airlines to get their planes back to blah, 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 so they're all in the right place and they're operating normal again. I would think, Codgeful of Love, in a week that things should be better. Fingers crossed. All right. Justin says, sometimes tourist activities can be much quieter in the afternoon because there's so many early birds. That's another great tip, is at a lot of tourist destinations, you're right. If you're going to go hike Diamond Head in Hawaii, then first thing isn't the best. In that case, end of the day is the best. So thank you for that tip, Justin. Una Disgrazio says, I'm flying from Newark to Phoenix tomorrow on American Airlines afternoon. So far, so good. I won't be a predictor, but I think that flight would go because in American's case, those are that's a hub. Well, Newark. I guess Newark to Phoenix isn't a hub flight, but it's a big market. That's a good money maker for them. They're going to prioritize the longer haul flights, the ones that make more money. They're going to cancel the shorter haul flights that have less people on them. Melissa is also a night owl, but will turn into an early bird during travel. Aloha, Suzette. Melissa says, what do you think are the top destinations for solo traveling? There's so many top destinations in the world. But I think in Asia, I think Tokyo is a great solo travel destination. I think Singapore is a great solo travel destination. Like the safety is great in those places. I think in Europe, I think of London and Paris. Certainly, you do have to deal with like pickpockets and things like that there across Europe that you don't have to deal as much in Tokyo or Singapore. In the USA. Being born and raised in San Diego, I think San Diego is a great solo travel destination. I think Hawaii can be a great solo travel destination too. Just don't go to Maui. So and Canada, there's some great cities in Canada. Like Vancouver is a great city in Canada to visit. I mean, there's like a long list of great solo destinations, but that's a few. The Wu-Tang Life says, do you use a local SIM card or eSIM when in an international country? I have T-Mobile, and so I get slow international data wherever I am. So if I'm just someplace 1 or 2 days and I don't need a lot of data, I'll just use that. If I need better data, then I typically buy eSIMs from SimLocal. If you search Yellow Productions eSIMs, you'll probably find a couple videos that I've done talking about how I use SimLocal, how to use it, how to install the eSIMs. But I find it a lot better, straightforward, more convenient to have the eSIM already downloaded and purchased on my phone than trying to figure that out when I get to the airport and you go to a place and they're all sold out of the SIMs that you need, and it's just a hassle. Okay. The Wandering Trash Panda says, you may have answered this, but how can you deal with jet lag when going to London? I have a whole video about how to deal with jet lag, so if you just search Yellow Productions jet lag, I will dive deep into that there. Briefly, when I get to a destination, my goal is to get as much sunlight, get as much exercise, eat early, eat late, go to bed around 7 o'clock in London so that you can start to wake up at a reasonable hour. Anyway, go watch the jet lag video and you'll get that all in much more detail. Okay, let's go to the giveaway time.
Yes, it's the time you've been waiting for. It's time for the giveaway.
All right, fellow explorers, as usual, I will be giving away a Yellow Productions crew shirt to one of my lucky winners today, who can answer one of my questions. Oh, by the way, while I do that, if you were still on the fence about like getting the extra wallets or the extra travel bags for 50% off for their Black Friday sale, I'll just pop up that coupon code yellow or that QR code that you can hit to do that. And so my question for you today is I talked about checking hotel locations for safety, and I talked about using a particular Google Maps mode to see the hotel and the area around the hotel. What is the name of that Google Maps mode? And you will win a Yellow Productions crew shirt shipped to you anywhere in the world. If you don't get to buy one and you want to win one, then you can buy the Yellow Productions shirts and swag at the Yellow Productions shop, including, where'd it go? It's still in the vacuum travel bag. Including the new Yellow Productions hoodie right here. It's getting cold, it's winter, these are warm. They make really good Christmas gifts. And you support Yellow Productions when you buy them at the shop. You'll find a link in the description below to that. And if you wonder, Chris, when is the next live stream? Head over to the Yellow Productions update, sign up for my email list, and I will email you every time I have a new video out. And you'll know the topic and the time and date before anybody else. All right.
And now we have a winner chicken dinner.
Congratulations to Chopsticks Forever, who is on a roll for winning recently. Chopsticks Forever, congratulations. Google Street View is the name because you're on a roll for winning, and you still get to win. Send me an email. You know how to reach me because you've won recently. We will go to the next winner, which is Blue Tornado 14, Brandon Torres, if my memory strikes me correct, as I'm trying to translate these handles to the names that you used to have. So congratulations to the two of you. Send me an email, chris@yellow-productions.com. You will get that t-shirt headed over right there. And as usual, fellow explorers, super cool hanging out with y'all today. And I won't say goodbye because I'll see you in the next video.